Hello and welcome. For centuries, some of the greatest minds in history have wrestled with one single profound idea, that life, at its core, is a form of suffering. Today, we're going to dive into that very debate, looking at how different philosophers have understood our human nature, our search for meaning, and the tools we might just have to navigate our own existence.
So, let's just jump right in with the big question that frames our entire discussion. Is life inherently suffering? Now, this isn't meant to be a downer, not at all. Think of it more as a starting point for a really deep and fascinating inquiry. It's a question that forces us to get real about what it truly means to be human.
Here's how we're going to unpack this. First, we'll explore what human nature even is. Then we'll get into the problem of suffering. From there, we'll look at the search for meaning, the role of our own free will, and finally, some practical paths to navigate it all. By the end, you'll have a clear map of this timeless philosophical landscape.
Okay, let's get into it. To even begin to understand suffering, we first have to understand the being that suffers, and that's us. So our first stop is the most fundamental question there is. What exactly is human nature?
So, at its simplest, human nature just refers to all the fundamental characteristics that we all share. But here's the thing. Philosophers don't see this as some vague, fuzzy concept. They treat it almost like a science, something that you can actually investigate rationally to figure out its core principles.
Let's kick things off with the American philosopher, William James. He had a very practical and, I'd say, pretty sobering view of our built-in limitations as people. William James pointed out a core human problem that he called blindness. It's that simple, kind of frustrating fact that we can never truly feel what another person is feeling. And he saw it on a bigger scale too, a sort of cultural blindness where people just fail to see the equal worth of others outside their own little group. For James, this disconnect isn't some small flaw, it's a fundamental source of human conflict.
Plato, writing way back in ancient Greece, saw our problem a little differently. He thought it wasn't blindness to others, but this endless hunger inside ourselves. See, we're not just content with surviving, we crave unnecessary refinements and pleasures. This creates what he called a spiritual hunger that pulls us in all these contradictory directions. We want peace, but we also want excitement. We want simplicity, but we also want luxury. For Plato, this internal tug-of-war is just a permanent part of being human.
And this idea of an inescapable internal conflict, well, it leads us directly to one of philosophy's most provocative thinkers, Friedrich Nietzsche. He wanted to know why we seem to avoid looking at this conflict too closely. Nietzsche had this belief that we instinctively shy away from asking the deepest questions about ourselves. And why? Well, because the answers might be genuinely terrifying. He argued that it's just way easier to live on the surface than to confront the unsettling possibility that our existence has no pre-written meaning. This avoidance for Nietzsche is a key characteristic of our nature.
Okay, so if our very nature is marked by blindness, endless desire, and this habit of avoiding the deep questions, then suffering isn't just a possibility, it kind of becomes a central theme of life. So let's explore that problem right now.
To really get Nietzsche's view on suffering, we have to understand his concept of the ascetic ideal. That lifestyle of self-denial and avoiding pleasure. But here's the twist. Where many people see something noble in that, Nietzsche saw weakness. He argued it was a desperate survival tactic for a life that feels like it's losing its power, a way to cope, not a way to thrive.
And this is a really crucial point. Nietzsche argued that even our supposedly good virtues, like pity and self-sacrifice, could actually be dangerous. Why? Because he believed they can lead to nihilism, that feeling that life is completely meaningless. For him, the ultimate human crisis wasn't just the fact that we suffer, but that we suffer without an answer to that fundamental question, why do I suffer? That lack of meaning, that's the real poison.
Now, from that potentially bleak outlook, we find a philosopher who stared directly into that abyss of meaninglessness and somehow found a reason to live. Albert Camus.
Camus totally acknowledged the absurdity of it all. He started from that same place of nihilism, but he absolutely refused to end there. He argued that accepting that life has no inherent meaning is precisely what frees us up to create our own. His philosophy is this powerful, clear-eyed invitation to live and to create in spite of all the suffering that it might entail.
This whole act of creating our own meaning is really the central human project, isn't it? So, how have thinkers throughout history tried to find purpose in a world that doesn't seem to offer one up for free?
Well, one of the most enduring answers comes from Stoicism. And Stoicism is less of an abstract theory and more of a practical guide to life.
It's a philosophy that offers direct counsel for when you're facing hardship, and it teaches self-control as the primary way to handle those destructive emotions.
So what does this Stoic counsel actually look like in practice? Well, it starts by shifting your focus away from material things and toward inner wealth, your character. It's about mastering your desires so you can tell the difference between what's actually necessary and what's just noise. But the central idea, the absolute core of Stoicism is this: stop trying to reform the universe and start reforming yourself. Face what you cannot change with courage and put all your energy into what you can.
And this powerful idea of reforming ourselves brings us to the very tools we use to do it, our consciousness and our capacity for choice, or what we call free will.
To dig into this, we need a special term from the philosopher Martin Heidegger, Dasein. It literally means being there. For Heidegger, what makes us humans so unique is that we aren't just in the world, we are aware that we are in the world. And a huge part of that awareness is confronting the fact that we exist. And one day, we won't.
And here we can see two very different takes on our consciousness. For Heidegger, our core reality is this being in the world, where the most fundamental emotion we have to face is the anxiety of our own mortality. Kant, on the other hand, really elevates the self as a free agent, asking that crucial question: are our choices truly our own, or are we just following a script written by nature and fate? So, we've defined human nature, we've explored suffering, and we've considered the roles of meaning and free will. Now let's wrap this all up with some of the practical, philosophical toolkits we can actually use to navigate our lives.
One of the most powerful tools is also one of the oldest, the Socratic method. It's basically a process of relentless but respectful questioning. You start with a problem, and you engage in this back and forth where every answer is met with another question. The goal here isn't to win an argument, it's to work together to strip away every weak assumption until only the truth remains.
Okay, let's summarize the toolkit we've put together. The challenge is clear. Our nature and the reality of suffering present real difficulties. Our goal, in response, is the search for meaning. To achieve that goal, we have tools, like the practical advice of Stoicism and the rigorous questioning of Socrates. And the thing that lets us use it all is our power, the free will and consciousness we use to choose how we confront everything. So, I'll leave you with this to think about. After exploring all these ideas, how do they shape your own understanding of what a meaningful life looks like? The philosophical conversation, it doesn't end here. It really continues with you. Share one insight that resonated with you in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining this explainer. If you found some value in this exploration, consider subscribing for more. We'll see you next time.